This is the brand new, retro-styled Kodak Retina 40 megapixel APS-C digital mirrorless camera. Attached is a 27mm f2.8 pancake lens in Kodak's iconic colors. I was given an advanced copy of this camera to try out, and I used that opportunity as an excuse to visit the majestic Grand Canyon in northern Arizona. What makes the Kodak Retina unique are the 8 built-in film emulation presets which mimic classic film stocks by Kodak. There's Kodachrome 64, Portra 160, Portra 400, Gold 200, Ultramax 400, Ektachrome E100 VS, Vision 3 250D, and of course, Tri-X 400. The pictures captured by the Kodak Retina look great straight out of camera, no editing needed. This new camera is bold yet beautiful, classic yet modern, digital yet analog. Oh, and it's made by Fujifilm. Kodak doesn't make any APS-C mirrorless cameras. This is actually a Fujifilm X-T5. I covered up the Fujifilm logo with some silver tape and added a Kodak decal. The lens is a 27mm TTArtisan f2.8 in their limited edition yellow and orange color scheme, which is reminiscent of Kodak. This lens is actually what inspired the digital Retina project. I thought, what if 15 years ago Kodak had actually made this concept? What if they had released a retro-like digital mirrorless camera with their built-in film stocks as film emulation presets? Would this pivot have prevented their 2012 bankruptcy? How much different would the camera industry look today if this camera actually existed? Kodak didn't pivot, but their largest competitor did. Instead of a Kodak Retina digital camera, we have Fujifilm. Thanks to their excellent film-inspired profiles in my film simulation recipes, you can replicate the aesthetic of many different Kodak emulsions on Fujifilm X series cameras. The Fujifilm X-T5 is the quintessential photographer's camera. The tactile shutter, aperture, and ISO controls harken back to the era of all-manual film SLRs. The small body is ideal for travel. Even though it is compact, Fujifilm somehow managed to pack a whole lot into it. The camera might appear vintage, and people might think that you're shooting with a film SLR, but on the inside it is very modern. The TTArtisan lens has a lot of character, which you might either love or hate. There's pronounced vignetting in the corners and definitely some corner softness. It's prone to strong flaring and definitely has vintage glass vibes, despite being new. The autofocus motor is quick and quiet. However, I have a different copy of this lens that has a loud motor, and so I think there's some discrepancies between copies. I prefer Fujifilm's 27mm pancake, which happens to be my favorite lens. But if you want to save a little money, or if you like the character of this lens, or maybe you like the orange and yellow color scheme, the TTArtisan 27mm is a pretty good alternative to the Fujinon. A couple of weeks ago, I took this camera and lens combo on an epic journey to the Grand Canyon, starting with a train ride to the South Rim in a dome car. I've been to the Grand Canyon many times, but never by train. I've been on several trains, but never in a dome car. This would be a couple of firsts for me. After staying the night in Williams at the Grand Canyon Railway Lodge, 30 minutes before boarding the train, the railway put on a Wild West gunfight show in the snow that was pretty entertaining. Afterwards, we boarded the train and were soon off. Our car was the Coconino, a Vista dome built in 1954. Appropriately, Coconino means land of little water. We were fortunate to be assigned the front row because you really could see everything. I walked the South Rim Trail with my camera, but it wasn't until golden hour that I really began to photograph. Because it was winter and it had snowed a couple of days before, all the trails were icy and slippery. The Grand Canyon is much less crowded in the winter. There were still lots of people, but not nearly as many as during the summer. One thing that surprised me while photographing the canyon at sunset is just how much the light and shadow danced along the walls and gorges. From one moment to the next, the view from the same spot changed dramatically. I had 8 film simulation recipes programmed into the Fujifilm X-T5. You might be curious how I had 8 when the camera only has 7 custom presets. Well, if you program a recipe into the IQ menu, you can have a bonus recipe, but you cannot assign it a custom name, so you have to remember which one it is. Because I had this camera disguised as a Kodak, complete with a vintage strap that I found on eBay several years ago, I chose only recipes that mimic Kodak film stocks. This was such a quick trip that I only had one shot to capture the morning sunrise. Even though I was tired and it was 5 degrees outside, It was worth trudging through the icy conditions to catch the morning light and shadow dance. Throughout my trip, I noticed people, mostly photographers, eyeing my camera. I'm not sure if they were curious what it was, or if they were appalled by the vibrant colors. Whatever the reason, they definitely saw it. In one instance, I ran into a photographer with a Fujifilm X-T5. We struck up a short conversation, and I had him reluctantly convinced that I was shooting with a Kodak camera. "It looks so much like my camera," he said with confusion. We had a good laugh about it. A while later, I was stopped yet again by someone. He told me that he owned a camera store for 25 years. For a moment, he believed that Kodak actually started making mirrorless cameras, but only for a moment. I enjoyed seeing different people's reactions to this unusual camera. After saying goodbye to the Grand Canyon, we boarded the train to Williams. During the 2-hour ride back, I reflected on my entire trip. Taking the train and staying one night inside the park was an incredible experience that I won't soon forget. While pulling into the station, I was greeted with an incredible sunset which spread vibrant colors across the sky. It was the best way to end this journey. So what do you guys think? Should Kodak have made a mirrorless camera? What would the industry look like today if they had? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.